Here we go. Whoops, that is not the one I wanted to hit. That's the one I wanted to hit. Hello, everybody. I'm Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. We're getting just about ready to hit the record button and start making Polite Society Podcast episode number 636. Let me make sure everything is shut down here so my phone doesn't go nuts on me. And sorry, it's a very fast turnaround today, and Facebook is being a jerk. I think I may have caught a ban. They just haven't sent me the notification for the ban yet, because all of a sudden I can't post live videos. Don't know what's up with that. So
that is how banned you are. They didn't even tell you you're banned.
It's a double secret probation ban is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So
thank you, Dean Wormer.
Yes. All right. Everybody on my end ready to go for recording?
It's not going to get any better. Let's do it.
All right. Here we go. Then Masada Ayub in 5, 4, 3.
Hey gang, this is Masad Ayub from the Pro Arms Podcast. I'm here to remind you that our podcast is a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. And I'm going to suggest you do what we do and check out the other podcasts at selfdefenseradio.net.
Treat every firearm as if it's loaded.
Never point a firearm at anything you're not willing to kill or destroy.
Keep your finger off the trigger until you are on target and ready to fire.
Always be sure of your target and what lies beyond it.
Hi, and welcome to the Second Amendment Foundation's Polite Society Podcast. We're recording this one on Monday, October the 17th, 2022. I'm Paul Lathrop.
I'm Rob Morse, and on tonight's show we talk about Shannon Watts and her unbelievable gun control proposals.
I'm John Richardson, and we'll talk about the contempt the New Jersey legislature has for Supreme Court rulings.
I'm Charlie Cook, and we will talk about a defensive gun use in Chicago, of all places. So climb aboard.
Strap in.
And hang on.
Episode 636 of the Second Amendment Foundation's Polite Society Podcast starts right now. All right, it's Monday night at 6 p.m. in the Central Time Zone, which means it's time for Polite Society Podcast. As I usually do, well, I haven't been able to for several weeks, but I'm going to start with Rob and say, man, what have you been up to since the last time we've seen you on Polite Society?
I was on Bill Frady's Lock and Load radio show this morning. I recorded another episode of Self-Defense Gun Stories, and I get to talk with Ben Branham for my next recording. That's tomorrow night. I also got to visit with Kevin and Sarah Sona as I drove from Louisiana to the Florida Keys and back. John, what have you been up to?
Well, about a week ago, a lot of driving. I had a great time at GRPC, and it really was good to see everyone. And we took the week afterwards to tour Texas, and we had a great time. We saw the Texas Ranger Hall of Fame, which had a great gun collection, the Alamo, the National Museum on the Pacific War, and much, much more. We ate great food from brisket to Tex-Mex to German. And when we include the drive to GRPC, we drove just a little bit less than 2,900 miles. And finally, in recent gun news, I finally finished one of my Form 1 suppressors. Finally. Even though I'd had the tax stamp for years, the parts, and a borrowed jig, I just really hadn't gotten around to it. And it took me all of maybe an hour on Sunday afternoon. And I probably spent as much time cleaning up the mess as doing it. So how about you, Charlie?
Once you got retired, you found the time to do it.
No, I just decided, I want my 22 suppressor. So I did it.
Charlie, man, what's
Good
up
on you,
with you,
John.
dude?
That's awesome, man. I put out episode 156 of Riding Shotgun with Charlie, and the passenger on my show was Nathan Hollywill, who is from Next Belt. I did a course this past weekend, but it was not a Utah class, and I had a client contact me about wanting to take a shooting lesson, and she didn't have anything. So I gave her a list of things she needed to get, and then 2 days before we were supposed to meet, I said, "Did you buy a gun yet? What did you buy?" And she said she hasn't done that. And I said, "Well, you might need to live a little extra time because the first time through, you might not pass the background check right away." So I'm still looking forward to getting together with a brand new shooter and her brand new gun. Paul, what has been happening here at the Daily Bullet and on the Second Amendment Foundation airwaves?
Well, we have been busy. We've been, since we started back after getting back from Gun Rights Policy Conference, we haven't missed or delayed a single episode. We've hit every single one. I hope that continues going forward. Personally, on my end, not a lot of gun news. Been just trying to get caught up with work. The individual videos for Gun Rights Policy Conference are not quite done yet. I am up to lunch on Saturday. I've got to finish the rest of Saturday and get Sunday out. I'm really hoping to finish that up this week, but we'll see. It's just as I get time to get to it. Susan is on. She's going to be reading news today. Susan, anything you want to bring up that you want to talk about that you've been up to?
Nope, just working.
Okay. All right. I want to remind everybody who's watching live, and that does not tonight include Facebook because they're have a glitch or something, or maybe I did something wrong and caught a ban or something. I don't know. But at any rate, YouTube viewers, if you're watching on Polite Society's YouTube channel, you can comment on the live video. Anywhere else that picks up the feed, go to Twitter, tweet with the hashtag PSP. And if you tweet with that hashtag, I get those comments almost right away, and we'll get those up. We'll discuss your comments on the air. Before I go off to our first break, I want to remind everybody, whoops, that's not the one I want. That's the one I want. I want to remind everybody about the Self-Defense Radio Network. Our tagline, of course, all your pro-freedom podcasts in one place. You can see us up there in the top left, right next to us, Self-Defense Gun Stories. Geeks, Gadgets, and Guns is up there. Gun Freedom Radio, Eye on the Target Radio, all kinds of pro-freedom podcasts there. We have 13 there with more to come. So go to sdrn.us. You can listen right off the website. And there's subscription info for each of the shows there, too, if you would like to subscribe. With that, I am going to head us off to our first break. When we come back, we've got our news segment to go through, including that story about Shannon Watts. It's a doozy, and I've got some facts to contradict her. So we'll get to all that right after we hear from ACLDN. We'll get to that when we'll get to that right now. Hang on, everybody.
This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network. If you carry a defensive handgun, you need protection from the aftermath of prosecution. Even if you do everything right, you can be the victim of an overzealous prosecutor or even be falsely accused. That is where the ACLDN comes in. They provide immediate assistance when you need it most. If you find yourself under arrest, they immediately pay bail money and the retainer for your attorney. Additional funds are available for trial and civil proceedings. Beyond the money, they have far and away the best team in the industry, providing you invaluable information and training DVDs that are included with your membership and who stand ready to work with your lawyer on your defense. People like Massad Ayub, John Farnham, James Fleming, Tom Givens, Emmanuel Capelson, Dennis Tueller, and led by Network President Marty Hayes. Initial membership is only $135 for your first year, and you get 8 incredible training DVDs and other educational material when you join. If you don't have tens of thousands of dollars to defend yourself at your disposal right now, you need to be a member of the ACLDN. Go to armedcitizensnetwork.org and become a member today. And please mention that you heard about them on the Polite Society podcast.
All right, we're back. This is a new segment of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. Susan, our first story is New Jersey. What's up there?
Legislative leaders in the New Jersey State House announced plans to attack and destroy the right to carry in the wake of the U.S. Supreme Court's recent Bruen decision, upholding the right to carry and making it impossible for states like New Jersey to continue blocking issuance of carry permits. Although the text of proposed legislation was not available when this story was prepared, legislative leaders described its features, and it sounds strangely similar to, if maybe not worse than, New York's anti-carry law passed this summer, which was recently stopped in its tracks by an injunction issued by the usually anti-gun federal district court there. According to lawmakers, they plan to ban carry in common public places by labeling them as sensitive places. That's plainly forbidden by Bruen. Plan to ban carry inside one's own car. Also plainly forbidden by Bruen. Ban carry on commercial and private property unless the property owner posts notices allowing it. That's just plainly unconstitutional. Massively increase fees for permits. Plainly forbidden by Bruen and discriminates against low-income citizens. Mandate special insurance, which may not even be available, as a precondition to exercise constitutional rights. Well, that's plainly unconstitutional. And mandate a new, unusual training requirement beyond the already difficult one that has existed for decades. That raises serious constitutional questions. These attacks by New Jersey lawmakers are a big middle finger to the U.S. Supreme Court, said ANJRPC Executive Director Scott Bach. These lawmakers have no respect for the Constitution or the rule of law. They focus on attacking citizens' rights while setting violent criminals free. We look forward to overturning those measures in court and forcing the state to pay our legal fees.
Rob, you're up first for comments and show notes, man.
Right. These legislators don't care about our rights. They don't care about the court cases that have already happened or the ones that will happen. They don't care how much New Jersey taxpayers have to pay out in legal fees. They care about being promoted within the Democrat Party. So all of you Democrat gun owners who say, I stand for the Second Amendment, but the people you elect and the party you put in office doesn't. They're doing this because Michael Bloomberg will donate campaign contributions to them. Money talks. Your rights aren't even in the room. John, would you say that better than I could?
Hardly. But I did one thing that it caught me in there. They mandate special insurance. You know, isn't it kind of funny that when they object to stuff like ACLDN, carry guard, well, not carry guard, but all the other protection that we have in case we're in a self-defense incident. They call it murder insurance. Now, they want you to buy it. But on one hand, they say, they have their insurance department saying, you cannot offer that. And then on the other hand, they say, you must buy it. It's kind of like a catch-22. And, I mean, that along with their fees, really, well, the fees are like a poll tax. Which has been banned both by the courts and by the Constitution. You shouldn't have to pay to exercise your constitutional right.
Amen. Charlie, you got a comment up in show notes.
If the the government's putting out all these laws from the Supreme Court, and then we have governors and states that say we're not going to abide by those laws, it really makes me say, then why should we listen to any laws? And I'm not, I remember seeing this chart. It was like where you were politically and how far were like you were so far right, you were an anarchist. And I thought that was kind of crazy. And then I'm like, wait a second here. If the government, right? So I'm like, maybe there's a fine line between an anarchist and a libertarian. That's what I'm kind of wondering here. if the government's not going to pay attention to their laws, why should we pay attention to them? My attorney general, the head law enforcement officer of the state, my AG, the anti-gun attorney general, she said she's not going to pay attention to Bruen. Well, then why should I pay attention to any of the other laws? Why should we worry about magazine capacities, assault weapon bans, and all this other nonsense that the government wants to shove down our throats?
The answer is because they are brutal tyrants and have the guns, Charlie. I can't pretty it up with any moral justification. I think you've successfully captured that issue. The issue that John brought up about insurance, there are two different things at play here. We can get insurance for accidents. We do it all the time. We can do it for firearms accidents as well. Almost all firearms ranges have it. What we can't do is get insurance for deliberate criminal actions. And that's what New York and New Jersey want to insure. If a criminal steals my gun and then uses it in a crime, no insurance company will cover that. And their insurance commissioner has already told them so.
Yeah. And what they want is to create a situation where it is so complicated that people are just going to give up, and they expect the Supreme Court to say, okay, well, you skirted us just enough, we'll let this float. I don't think with the current configuration of the Supreme Court that's going to happen.
Okay. Yeah, it's very much, if they take it, it's very much like, thank you, sir, may I have another? Okay, we'll accept this. Okay, we'll accept this. Okay, we'll accept this, and just keep on going. And people have to fight, and they have to let people know how ridiculous some of this stuff is.
All right, let's Susan, let's go ahead and let's move on to that op-ed by Shannon Watts.
With just weeks to go before one of the most consequential midterm elections in American history, the airwaves are flooded with images of candidates brandishing guns. Our social media feeds are filled with declarations that the Second Amendment is under siege, and many political rallies have been dominated by rhetoric that undermines our democracy. It's all extremist hot air. These candidates want us to believe our government and anyone working to mitigate the effect of America's gun violence epidemic are hell-bent on taking away your rights and liberties.
Because they are.
But the reality is that gun laws save lives, and an overwhelming majority of Americans in red, blue, and purple states want them.
Bullshit! Sorry, was that external?
Amid a gun violence crisis that kills 110 Americans each day and wounds 200 more, poll after poll shows Americans believe gun safety reforms are in the best interests of their families and communities. Gun policy is the number 2 issue for all voters, according to a recent Pew Research poll. And 71% of Americans in an August AP NORC poll said gun laws should be stricter, including nearly half of Republicans, an overwhelming majority of Democrats, and a majority of people in gun-owning households.
Okay, I've got to take the lead on this. This was I did this on Saturday on the Bullet, but I looked up numbers. Now, her numbers of the 110 Americans killed each day, that includes suicides, that includes gang violence. Even using her numbers and keeping those in there, okay? I went to the U.S. Census Bureau. And according to Shannon Watts' numbers, you have about a 1 in 10,000 chance of being fatally shot each year just by being alive in America. You have about a 1 in 3,333 chance of being wounded. By the way, you have just about the same chance of drowning. Either near drowning or fatal drowning. The numbers come out just about even. You have about a 1 in 10,000 chance of fatally drowning and about a 1 in 333,000 or 3,333 chance of a near drowning. Then I went to gunfacts.info and I got these numbers. 71% of gunshot victims had previous arrest records. 64% had been convicted of a crime. Victims of gunshots had on average 11 prior arrests. 63% of victims had criminal histories, and 73% of that group knew their assailant. 74% of homicides during the investigation of felony-involved guns, and most gun violence is between criminals. Shannon Watts, if you want to get rid of gun violence, lock up criminals, keep them in prison for their entire term they earned. I gotta call John. Go. You're first in show notes.
Just like with ghost guns and gun violence, they're made up terms. It isn't gun violence. It is the criminal misuse of a firearm. We don't talk about knife violence, bat violence, whatever. As to suicide, it is sad. It's extremely sad. But it is not, quote, gun violence. It is mental illness. Further, we don't, nor should we, govern by polls. Rob?
John, you're absolutely right. But I'm surprised you didn't say something else, because you're a numbers guy. I'm a numbers guy. And Shannon's numbers are wrong. 85% of criminals don't use a gun. If we could eliminate all guns, we'd still be victimized by criminals every day. And in addition, what Shannon didn't tell us is how many times a day that guns save lives. And that number is over 4,000 times a day. That dwarfs all of her other statistics. And what it means is that we're much more likely to save ourselves with our guns than to be hurt by a criminal misusing a firearm. Charlie. And I can teach you to swim. Go ahead, Charlie.
I can teach you to shoot back.
I have a friend that doesn't know how to swim, but she does know every dive in town. No. So realistically, there are swim safety courses all over the place. In public swimming pools, at the YMCA. I know. I think I learned how to swim at the YMCA. I know I learned how to canoe 100 years ago at the YMCA. And public schools, there's places that offer swim classes all the time. So if we're just as likely to get shot as we are to drown, then we should teach people how to swim, and we should also teach them how to be safe with a firearm. The other thing I want to bring up is Joe Rogan had a video that came out this past weekend, and he was talking to somebody, and he's got all these great clips from movies, and he says, hey, listen, all these Hollywood liberal wackos, they glorify that in movies that people use guns to protect themselves all of the time. And he just listed off 4 or 5 different movies where this is in, where they do this. And they're movies that are out now. It's not, old stuff. But the point, I guess my point is, it can't, Shannon Watts talks about the hypocrisy about things, or there was some article about the hypocrisy of things, and it can't be that there's all this gun violence, but we're going to glorify people that use guns to protect their lives, and then of course you have to. We have the revolving door of justice, where people go in and people commit crimes. They're out by lunchtime. They're out with their family at dinner time, and the next day they're out back to business committing crimes. It's a lot ridiculous that people don't see this or don't get that.
100%. Let me get some comments in here real quick. I'm going to start with C&T Designs and Arms. I want to get that one in first. Sup, perps. I think that's supposed to be peeps, but
peeps.
Peeps, burps. What's the difference?
Yeah, exactly.
The E and the R are close on the typewriter. You know what I mean? It could be fat fingers.
Yeah, that could be. That could be. PNW Woods. Ghost guns are owned by Ghost Tactical. Though, okay, I'll buy that. CNT Designs, again, comes back with the anti-gun leftists have to throw everything that involves a gun into the same bucket so they can play with the numbers. You know, if they were to take out all of the gang shootings, gang shooting at each other, if they were to take out all the suicides, if they were to take out those out of the equation, they would have nothing to talk about. The numbers for crime in America involving guns are actually very tiny if you take out the gang and the suicides. And
Paul, you bring up, so you just channeled our inner John Lott, where the news would have you think that crime is next door, and it might be, depending on where you live. The use of a firearm to commit murder is very localized. 2% of our counties will have over half of our murders. Most of our counties will have none committed with a gun or otherwise.
Yeah, we now I want to qualify this. I do not live in New York City. I live in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. The population of Sioux Falls is a hair over 200,000. Metro, I think we're if you include the surrounding area, which goes into Minnesota, which goes into Iowa, which goes into the rural counties around here, but it's a short. Anyway, we're less than 3. Let's put it that way. We had our first murder in late August. It just does not happen. And by the way, that murder was an arson. We've had 2 murders this year. Let's compare that. There are neighborhoods in Chicago that are smaller than 200,000 that are in the 20s and 30s of their murders this year. So
there didn't a story come out? I think AWR Hawkins wrote this, that there were 19 shootings Friday night in one neighborhood in Chicago.
Entirely likely.
Yeah. I just covered it.
Get this comment up here. Shannon didn't call to ban SUVs after Waukesha. Nope. Because everybody has an SUV. Hell, Susan and I have an SUV. Everybody, and she'd get pushback if she tried to take something from everybody. And then CNT, he did indeed decide to call us perps. So okay,
all right.
And Big John 410, who commented back when we were on the bullet here a while ago, Charlie and I did the bullet. Studies show that keeping a ladder in the house is more dangerous than a loaded gun. That's why I own a gun, in case some maniac tries to sneak a ladder into my house. I love that.
And some people can do that sober. That's what's really impressive.
Not me. All right. Wow. Susan,
I saw this video a few months ago, and it's these 2, I don't know, 19-year-old guys that have determined that if you walk into any place with a ladder, people will leave you alone because it looks like you're going to work. So these guys got video of them like going into the movies and bringing a ladder into the movies. They just walk right in the front door, walk right past the ticket guy, the whole deal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, if we were open carrying a gun, we could probably do the same.
It used to be, this has been years ago, but it used to be that if you had a hard hat on and you carried a clipboard, same thing. That's your open invitation to go anywhere. Clipboard with a couple sheets of paper on it and a hard hat, and you can get in anywhere.
Project Veritas, James O'Keefe, didn't he do that into a Congress critter's office and a senator's office, and he gets arrested? Ultimately, I think that's it. He just said, "I'm here to fix the phones," and everybody said, "Oh, right this way."
Funny how they know which phones they were talking about.
Right. They didn't say, "Oh, whatever do you mean, James?"
Oh,
That's
wow.
great.
I believe, and another one that he did that I loved, I think it was him, it could have been somebody else. It was during the election, I want to say it was 2012 election, and he was trying to prove voter fraud in Washington, D.C. And help me out, who was the AG during the Obama administration?
Eric Holder.
Eric
Yeah.
Holder.
He tried to go vote as Eric Holder in D.C. Of course, Eric Holder is an entirely different race than James O'Keefe. And when they said, "Are you sure? Who are you?" and he says, he goes, "Well, do you need to provide proof? Just say who you are." He goes, "I can get proof. I can be back faster than you can say furious." And
I think they call that a
Yep.
tell.
yes. Anyway, Susan, let's. I gotta get my blood pressure is gonna go back up. Susan, let's talk about Biden.
President Joe Biden says he'll add a federal ban on assault weapons to his list of legislative accomplishments, despite the political headwinds facing gun control and the president's agenda. Biden made the comment in an interview to CNN's Jake Tapper on Tuesday evening as the president touted his legislative wins since taking office. Those victories include a bipartisan bill that became the first gun safety package passed by Congress in nearly 2 decades. Without offering details, Biden said he would successfully seek national prohibitions on military-style rifles, a goal that's long eluded gun safety advocates. Biden was quoted as telling Tapper, "By the way, I'm going to get an assault weapons ban. Before this is over, I'm going to get that again. It's not a joke. You just watch."
John, go.
It bothers me when they call them military rifles, because no military would use what American civilians are allowed to carry. And it gets relabeled again. It's a patrol rifle. It's a personal defense weapon if you're a government employee wearing a polyester uniform. But if my neighbor owns it, Joe Biden calls it an assault weapon. That's sick.
I'm surprised Biden didn't say, "Just watch me, Jack." But this was it Thursday or Friday after the mass murders in Raleigh. He also called for an assault weapons ban again as a result of that. However, the 15-year-old murderer who killed his own brother, among others, used a shotgun, according to all credible witnesses. And isn't that what Joe always says to get? Go buy a shotgun?
Yep.
Exactly.
I don't mean to make light of the murders in Raleigh, but calling for an assault weapons ban when it is obvious that the murderer used another weapon is just ludicrous.
Charlie and I did the bullet earlier today, and we had a press release that I read almost in its entirety from SAF and the Citizens Committee, and Alan Gottlieb went into detail on that. And I'm going to read just a little bit of that, the very end of it. Biden simply can't get his story straight about guns, Gottlieb concluded. And when something isn't straight, it's crooked. That seems to be the way Joe Biden has always been about guns, and it rubbed off on his party. Gun owners have figured it out. That's why they've drifted away from Democrats and taken their votes with them. And I certainly hope that holds true again in a few weeks.
Amen.
We start early voting on Thursday.
I believe, Susan, hasn't early voting already started in South Dakota?
Early voting's been going on for 2 weeks already.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was hanging out with some friends this weekend, and the TV was on, and I mentioned this in the bullet as well. Some commercial for some CSI show came on, and I heard them bring up the term assault shotgun, and my ears, like a dog, it was like, what are they talking about? Assault shotgun? I've never heard of one of these before. So I wonder if this is going to be another term that slips in. That's just a bunch of baloney that slips into the vernacular and starts to be used by the anti-gun crowds in the media. And it's an assault shotgun because he assaulted someone with a shotgun. Therefore, it's an assault shotgun.
Yeah, and I'm going to bring it up here too because we have two different audiences for Polite Society and for the Bullet. Polite Society, especially when it goes out on a podcast, just dwarfs the Bullet. So, but I'm going to bring it up here too. I have a friend that has a Mossberg 500 that is tricked out. It's got the pistol grip. It's got a holographic sight. It's got the custom stock. It's got all kinds of stuff on it, and it's a very, very cool. Honestly, for a gun guy, it's a really cool looking firearm. But if an anti-gunner were to see it, that I'm sure is something they would classify as an assault shotgun, even though it's no more deadly and no more dangerous than your absolutely rock stock Mossberg 500 shotgun.
Yep. Can we call this what it is? It's propaganda.
Yeah.
And it's offensive that the media is so quick to adopt it.
Yes. Let me get a couple comments in here real quick. Diane on the YouTube side says, if they are pushing for more gun control, then why do they leave criminals out of jail so they can commit another crime with a gun? You just hit the nail on the head, Diane. That is the big problem. It's not the problem with violence in America is not locking up the people that are committing violent acts. The problem with violence is they let them back out within minutes. I mean, certainly within hours. And they're back on the streets. They go commit more crimes. And Dana says, with early voting, you need an August surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
All right. Let's see here. And where am I at? I'm on the wrong damn page. Let's go to some good news. Susan, let's get to that next story about firearm sales.
More than 1 million firearm sales in September resulted in the FBI conducting a National Instant Criminal Background System, NICS check. Small Arms Analytics and Forecasting, SAAF, puts the 30-day period's total sales at roughly 1.3 million, making it the 38th month in a row with 7-digit figures. Purchases during the month, as glowingly reported in mainstream media, are down when compared to the same periods last year and in 2020, when the pandemic, widespread social unrest, and calls to defund law enforcement fueled a record-setting gun sales pace. Were it not for those catalysts, 2022 would be on the verge of setting a new all-time high watermark for law-abiding citizens exercising their Second Amendment rights.
I've been a slacker lately. I haven't bought a gun in months. And there's ones I'm kind of interested in. I just haven't pulled the trigger, or I've done other stuff. Shame on me.
Yeah. I need to pull the trigger on a new purchase here very soon as well. I've been behind. The thing is, I did add to my NICS because I don't know if I added to NICS, but when you get your South Dakota Enhanced permit, you have to go through the FBI and do your fingerprints through there. So my numbers went. But anyway, one more point I want to make, and I got way off topic when I started. Out of those 38 months of 1 million firearm sales, we're not all buying our second, 8th, 33rd firearm. I'm still saying a lot of those 1 million every month are new gun owners. And so I just hope the new gun owners that are part of that 1 million every month vote like they're gun owners.
Interesting.
I did a class a couple of years ago, and there was a guy in the class that was a doctor, and I don't remember what kind of doctor he was, but I started telling him about some of the nonsense in the Massachusetts gun laws, and he was completely dumbfounded by this. And he's like, "You mean I can't do this? I can't have one of these? If I saw one of these, I can't get it?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's what it means." He's like, "Well, what do we do about this?" I'm like, "Well, you join some pro-gun groups and you call your legislators, and since you're a doctor, they might listen to you because you're a little smarter than I am."
A doctor.
Yeah, you're a doctor. They might listen to you. That's what you need to do. And this guy was totally bowled over. He's like, I can't have a high cap magazine. I can't buy one of these. You want to tell me I can't buy a brand new Glock? Yeah, you can't. Well, that's BS. Yes, it is. You need to call and complain to somebody, and it's not to me. It's not going to get anywhere with me, dude.
Yeah. I'm gonna get this comment in here real quick. I got actually two comments I want to get in here. The first one is Metal Force, Bird of Michigan. My best Mossberg 500 24-inch BBL iron sights, smoothbore, no chokes, printed 1-inch groups at 50 yards with all Foster style 1-ounce slugs except Remingtons. That's 50 yards, 1-inch groups. That's
good.
That's nice. And then Dana said, I just purchased a trigger kit for a gun I can see through. Okay. All right.
Well,
wow.
that's clear.
Oh, yeah. Ghost gun. I think Charlie got it. Ghost gun.
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know. I think that's where Dana and Charlie were going.
I think that's where I was going. That's what I got. I mentioned at the beginning that I had supposed to have a client that I was going to take shooting, and it was really funny. We're messaging back and forth, and I said, "Hey, listen, we're planning on going shooting in 2 days. You might want to get in on it and get your gun now, because as a first-time buyer, you might not pass the background check, and you might get delayed." And she's like, "What does that mean?" I said, "That means you have to wait 3 days before you can go pick up your gun." And she's like, "You mean my background check to get my gun license wasn't enough?" I'm like, "Welcome to being a gun owner. This is what it's like."
We are super late on break, but I want to get one more story in. I'm going to go ahead, because Susan, the dogs were really insistent they wanted to go out. Susan went to go let them out. I'm going to
and yelled at them while I was doing it.
Oh, she's back. Okay, let's go to that 3D. Let's go to the last story, Susan, the one for Santa Rosa.
Oh, yes. Hey, if you want to get rid of some unwanted guns, the Santa Rosa Police Department is hosting a drive-through gun buyback event October 22nd. It's happening at Bridge Church on Fulton Road. You can get $200 for each functional handgun, rifle, or shotgun. They're offering $300 each for functional assault rifles or ghost guns. Police will buy back 3 guns per person, and all drop-offs will be anonymous. All guns must be unloaded, and no ammo will be accepted. Fire up them 3D printers, guys.
Yeah, if you live in the Santa Rosa area, or heck, for $900 minus the cost of some 3D printing material, you get a long way to get. You just make a trip to Santa Rosa profitable if you want to go to California, but you got time. The 22nd, I believe, is this Friday. Let me look at my calendar. It's this Saturday. So, look, my take on this now is, if they're going to continue doing this, let's take them. Print up 3 of them and go get their money. It does not cost $900 to print 3 guns. It costs less than $20, I'm sure. One time you get your 3D printer paid for and then some. So, if you're in Santa Rosa, get on it, folks. No questions asked. So,
It is kind of funny that they're now limiting it to 3 instead of the guy that brought 200 back and made like $21,000
in New York. Yeah.
Well, here's my question: if drop-offs are anonymous, how are they going to know if you bring 3 down and then a couple hours later bring 3 more down? They're not writing your name down. It's anonymous.
Right. Well, you have to change your clothes and identify differently, I guess.
Well, you go to the store, you just got $900. You can spend $50 on new damn clothes.
Halloween's coming up. They got that spray and hair dye.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Oh, just get a wig.
I guess I could use a wig.
Oh, that was my brother, or that you saw. I identify as a woman.
Exactly.
I'm a bearded woman, but whatever.
Right. The circus isn't really taking the positions anymore.
Exactly.
Oh my. All right. Yeah, let's go ahead and we're going to set the news aside here since we're over 15 minutes late on break. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We've got DGUs coming up, and we'll talk about those as soon as we hear from CNJFO. Right back, right after this.
New Jersey is a civil rights wasteland where an unconstitutional law known as justifiable need keeps ordinary citizens from exercising their right to bear arms. New Jersey spits in the eye of freedom, ignores the Bill of Rights and the Heller decision. New Jersey politics are an anti-civil rights bulldozer and a spreading cancer. The Coalition of New Jersey Firearms Owners, a tax-exempt nonprofit, has a goal to defeat justifiable need, reverse course on all anti-freedom laws, and render aid to other jurisdictions by filing Supreme Court-bound litigation. CNJFO is a beacon of freedom behind the Iron Curtain in New Jersey. Join CNJFO's strong, enthusiastic patriots. Support the Coalition of New Jersey Firearms Owners today. Protect all our rights and return freedom to the Garden State. To donate or learn more, go to cnjfo.com.
We are back. This is a defensive gun use segment of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. As we get going, I need to remind you these discussions are not legal advice. Some of us are trainers, but this is not formal training, and you need formal training. The defensive gun use segment is intended as information and entertainment, not training. As always, the opinions of the hosts are only their own opinions and not those of any sponsors or other affiliations. Let's go to see. First one we have is Idaho. Susan, you ready with that one?
Yes, sir. Jared Erickson was out to bag an elk in the wilds of southeast Idaho. Instead, he had an encounter that transformed him from the hunter to the hunted. Not only did he have a rifle with him, but also a Glock 27. He had noticed the mountain lion stalking him for about 30 or 45 seconds, then got his phone out. I'm sure he was hoping that once the big cat realized he knew he was aware of him, that he would leave him alone. Just in case he didn't, he had his handgun in his right hand. The cat can be seen stalking him in the video, and at one point flattened its ears against its head in what experts call a clear sign of aggression. Erickson warned the cat to get back. The whole time this is going on, he's backing away from the mountain lion. The commands fail to turn back the cat, and when the cat lunges at the hunter, he fires a shot at the big cat. The predator collected itself and then continued to move forward like any good villain would do. A second shot, which did not hit the cat, was enough to get the stalker to turn back and head to the pines that can be seen in the background of the video. Some experts think the cat may have had a reason for the perceived self-defense. It may have had young ones in the pines and aspens at the edge of the field.
All right, John, you're up first in comments.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool that we can see the video of it, but I think the guy was stupid to be filming with his phone rather than paying 100% of his attention on an apex predator that kept moving towards him. He was lucky. I mean, that cat could have moved a lot faster than that guy could shoot probably one-handed, strong side or not.
Absolutely, totally agree.
You guys remember the Rutgers student who is killed by a bear? And we have video of it, because rather than run like hell, he stops to take a picture of the bear. Evidently, whatever they test for in SATs, it doesn't include bear defense.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is another example of we need the ability to carry and without going mother may I to the government, simply because not all predators have two legs. And if you're out where there are predators, and let's face it, there are bears in New Jersey, there are bears in northern Florida.
There are bears in my neighborhood.
Yeah. You need to be able to protect yourself when you're out where there's wildlife. There are coyotes. There used to be wolves here. There are coyotes, and they're trying to reintroduce wolves in northern Minnesota. I don't know if they're going to make it down to southern South Dakota or not. But
wow. I'd love to bring up how bad my state is, but in Massachusetts, you cannot carry a handgun with you while you are hunting with a shotgun or with a bow. And I think this is one of the things the Gun Owners Action League is trying to fight back on with some of this. They're trying to say that you can't tell someone when to not carry a gun under Bruin. And honestly, I always thought that was the most ridiculous thing. I realize I'm not going to shoot a deer with my handgun, but I could shoot a bobcat or a coyote or something.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the next one up. This is a unicorn, a DGU in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
A 7-time loser used construction scaffolding to climb up and enter a 7th floor condominium by climbing through the window. The intruder was facing felony charges number 6 and number 7, and he is now facing an 8th felony charge after this home invasion. The female resident woke up at 3:10 a.m. to get ready for work in her condo. She thought she heard noises while going through her morning routine. She had assumed that those noises were coming from an adjoining unit. As she was about to leave, she entered the bathroom and came face to face with the intruder. The intruder responded by punching her in the eye. She pushed back and fell to the floor and began fighting with the man and yelling for her fiancé. The fiancé pushed the intruder off her and yelled at her to get his gun. I guess pogo doesn't work when you're in your pajamas. She returned with his gun, and they held the intruder until Chicago PD arrived. Officers found a crowbar in his waistband and 2 screwdrivers in his backpack. He had the couple's property in his pants pockets. This included a watch, keys, 2 packs of cigarettes, an antique coin, a small box of pot, and an electric candle control. Evidently, he didn't need the remote control candle. He had been convicted of burglary in 2008, 2009, 2015, and twice in 2017. He is on parole for the 2017 convictions and had 2 non-burglary felony convictions. He is being held without bail, despite Illinois' lax bail policies.
All right.
Officer, those aren't my pants, honest. I don't know how the stuff got in there.
You know, Susan watches Cops a lot at home. You'd be amazed how often that makes it on the air on Cops.
Yeah, I know.
Those aren't my pants. I have no idea how those got in those pockets. Charlie, you're up. What's your comment, man?
So one of the things he had was some of the stuff he sold was some of the stuff he stole was a small bag of pot. What are the odds that somebody's going to come out and say they shouldn't have had the gun because they had pot, or they shouldn't have had pot because they had a gun? Now, this is kind of where I feel like the libertarian and the anarchist, because I'm like, I'm down with freedom, and if they want to smoke pot and own a gun, I don't know if I necessarily see what the issue is, or how one necessarily relates to the other. However, you can't federally have one, and you can't have a gun and have pot, or be a cannabis user.
I'm speaking, I got to separate this. I'm speaking as Paul Lathrop. I'm not speaking on behalf of the Second Amendment Foundation here. I'm speaking as Paul Lathrop. If you want to drink beer, if you want to drink whatever, if you want to drink whiskey, bourbon, if you want to smoke pot, you want to do whatever you want to do, if you want to snort coke off a hooker's backside, I don't care. I'd prefer you don't do it while you are armed. But I don't want laws saying when I can and cannot be armed.
Right. Well, let's leave Hunter Biden out of this, okay?
Speaking of which, I don't know if we've mentioned it on this show yet or not, but report came out just as we were going to SHOT Show, or not to SHOT Show, to GRPC. As we were getting ready to go to GRPC, a report came out that the federal investigators have all the information they need, and they sent all the information to a federal prosecutor in Delaware, who, by the way, is a Trump appointee, and they think they have a case against Hunter. So we'll see if something happens there.
Finally.
Yeah.
Well, another, I do want to call back, of course. Maybe if these people didn't have a ladder, then maybe the government broke into the 7th floor apartment.
Yes. Then that was, as Susan was starting to read that, use construction scaffolding, and I thought, yeah, there's your ladder right there.
There's your ladder, absolutely.
Since he climbed in, is he a cat burglar?
Did he steal their cat? If he stole their cat, the cat was in the process.
I can get you that DGU. I've got it. I discovered it.
He stole their catnip.
All right.
Oh, come on. So listen, realistically, can the construction company that left the scaffolding out be responsible for this?
They were repairing the entire building. They're replacing, I think, the glass wall or doing routine repairs on it. So I still don't know how he got it. I didn't think 7th floor. Maybe if they had a balcony, but that's the only way I can imagine that there was a window you could open on the 7th floor. Wow.
And even at that, I think we can use this as, even if you have a 7th floor apartment, make sure you're if there's scaffolding out there, if there's any way somebody could get to, lock your damn windows. So, you see, I'm gonna say idiots because I'm terrified of heights. You see idiots every once in a while that are arrested when they scale the Empire State Building or the I don't know what they used to be called, the Sears Tower. I don't know the name of it anymore.
Willis Tower.
Willis Tower in Chicago now, or the Space Needle out in Seattle. They'll free climb these buildings, and they get arrested once they get to the top. I call them idiots because no way in hell, I don't think so. Forget it on my end. But even if you've got a 5th floor, 6th floor apartment, lock your windows. Make sure nobody can get in unless you let them in. And then be careful about who you let in. Anyway, let's go ahead and we're going to step aside for our final break. We're going to hear from JPFO. When we come back, we'll talk about what we've been involved in media, and we'll shut the show down. We'll be right back right after this.
In 1928, Germany required its citizens to register their firearms, making possible Hitler's 1938 Nazi Weapons Act, disarming all Jews. Now ask yourself, what is the real consequence of registration? All in favor of gun control, raise your right hand. Brought to you by Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership, America's aggressive civil rights organization. JPFO.org.
Okay, this is our final segment of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. I've got to get this comment in because I get a live stream. I get comments that come up live just off to my right side, right over there, and to your left, my right. as they pop. And as I seen this comment, this is from the last EGU. Dana says that was a balcony. I seen it and I thought it said that was baloney. And I thought, boy, he knows me really well, but anyway. This is our final segment, and this is where we talk about what we've been doing in media. Rob, it's been at least 2 or 3 weeks since you've been on the show. What's been up with you? What have you been putting out, man?
I've been on vacation, so I've been slacking. But while I was drying out after diving, I did do some writing. We all know we might have to defend ourselves, and that can be as ordinary as your neighbor scaring away an intruder who broke through her back door. But sometimes it's as significant as stopping mass murder. Yes, you might not remember every incident where an ordinary armed citizen took extraordinary action and saved lots of lives. The mainstream media certainly forgets to mention it. But we remember. We also write about it on AmmoLand. That's where I've started a new series called Armed Citizens Stop Mass Murder. We have hundreds of examples to talk about. John, tell us what's new at your blog, No Lawyers, Only Guns and Money.
Well, you may have remembered me talking about a youth football league that was raising money by raffling an FN-15 patrol rifle. They expected to make about $3,000. Thanks to you and all the publicity generated by the anti-gunners, they raised $30,000. In other news, I have 2 posts up about changes at the Brady campaign, or Brady United as they're calling themselves now. Jonathan Lowy, who had been their chief counsel and headed their legal team, has left after 25 years. In the last few years, there hasn't been an attempt to pierce the Protection of Lawful Commerce and Arms Act veil of immunity that he was not involved in. He has now founded his own organization called Global Action on Gun Violence. Today we learned that Brady itself didn't want to be registered as a foreign agent for the Mexican government, while Lowy wants to go global on gun control. I'm sure I'll have more to report on this in the future. I will say I did send Jonathan Lowy a nice email. I identified myself as a Second Amendment supporter. And I said, at age 61, making changes like this, pretty big move. What's going on? Never heard back. That and more is at onlygunsandmoney.com.
All right. Charlie, your turn. What do you want to plug, bud?
Last week on Riding Shotgun with Charlie, I put out episode 156, and the passenger on my show was Nathan Hollywell from Next Belt. And I'm always looking for people to subscribe to Riding Shotgun with Charlie on the YouTube. And I have an Instagram page as well that I don't do enough activity on. But one of the things that I think I need to figure out how to do is to do a live giveaway with Chris Chang. Chris actually set me up with one of his books, Shoot to Win, and he signed it for me to use as a giveaway. So I've got to get together with Chris and find out when we can hop on and do a live video and figure out what I need to do to give something away. So please check out Riding Shotgun with Charlie on Instagram as well as YouTube.
It's a great book, by the way. I've got a copy of it myself. And so congratulations in advance to whoever wins that. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually I don't spend too much time watching TV, but I did see that one of my local libraries has Top Shot Season 4 on DVD, and I'm I don't know, maybe almost halfway through. Chris Chang was on it, and Gabby Franca was in that season as well. So it's pretty fun to watch these, knowing that Chris won everything.
Yeah,
to watch. I'm like, I know who Chris is going to win. Why am I watching this? But it's still pretty cool.
It is very cool, and wait till you get to the last episode of that year. It's I'm not giving out any spoilers. We all know he won, but it was that close. And I actually, when I interviewed him one time, I said, editing on TV, they can make anything look any way they want to. Was it as close as it looked on TV? He said, oh yeah, it was that close. So yeah.
Very cool.
All right. On our way out, I want to remind everybody, if you're on Facebook, as we're not right now, but Facebook's being Facebook. Anyway, if you are on Facebook and you want to follow us, we have a private group there. It's anyway. Search Polite Society, or search for Polite Society podcast listeners on Facebook. We have a private group you can join. Just us and our listeners there. You're not going to be getting any anti-gunners or any stuff in there. So give us a search. Go ahead and join if you'd like. That does wrap up another episode of the Second Amendment Foundation's Polite Society podcast. For Amy, Dana, Tracy, John, Susan, Amanda, Robin, Charlie, and Rob.
Until next time,
stay safe.
Be aware.
And we'll see you down the road.
The views and opinions on the show you just heard are those of the host and the guest and are not necessarily the views of any sponsors or other affiliations. But hey, not everyone is as smart as we are.
Okay, we are clear of recording and basically no post-show today. I'm going to shut it down here real fast. Got to get that in, though. CNT Designs had to say later, perps. Get that in, too, so... I think I'm giving them the wrong impression, guys. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Paul, am I on the bullet tomorrow?
I believe so. Let me go. Well, let me say goodbye to everybody watching on.
Oops, sorry.
On YouTube and on OpsLens, and I'm going to go ahead and shut that stream down, and we'll see you folks